Okay, so now I want to drill down into some of the common story themes that we use in our product launches. These themes have been proven over the years. They work really, really well. They keep people engaged, they pull people into your market, and they really draw them into your launch and your world. One great big thing about these themes is they really help humanize our marketing. People really, when you use these themes, people will really start to identify with you. In fact, they'll even want to be you. And one of the things that these stories do is they really put us on the same plane as the people watching our launch, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. You know, the deal is a lot of times if you're out there, and just having a business sets you apart, and it sort of, it turns you into a guru or a star or some type of like an unattainable person. And you don't really want that. You want people to be able to connect with you. I mean, you want that expert positioning, that guru positioning. You want to be seen as special, but you also want them to be able to connect with you. And these stories really allow you to do that. You'll see as we go through these. I mean, think about the movie Star Wars, for example. That movie is a classic hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. In fact, George Lucas, who created the movies, he very much based Star Wars on that hero's journey. So in any case, Luke Skywalker, look at him. I mean, he ends up being this incredible hero in that movie, but he's the everyman. He starts off as just a boy, and then he grows into this hero, so you can identify with him. Now, one thing that's important to remember as you go through these themes is you can mix and match these themes. You can use different themes in different parts of your launch. You can use more than one theme. You can have parts of your launch that don't have a theme at all. But I'll just say this, the more you put these themes to work in, both in your launch and in your entire business, the better. They are extremely powerful. And the more you base your story or your launch off of them, the better you're going to do. So one final thing, I am a huge fan of being truthful in my marketing. It just makes everything a lot easier and more congruent. Authenticity really does win. Remember, people have that BS detector, and it's a finely tuned mechanism. They can see right through inauthenticity, just like you wouldn't believe. So I'm a big fan of using these stories truthfully. The good news is that these themes exist everywhere in our lives, and you're not going to have to look very hard to find a way to put these themes to work in your business. It's often just a matter of looking at our life in the context, or looking at our life in the context of these themes, and then finding the ones that apply or don't apply at any given time. So let's get started. I'm going to start with my absolute favorite. This is my go-to one that I've probably used more than any others, and reluctant hero. The reluctant hero. I've used this one in my biggest launches, and just some of my most successful launches, and it works really, really well. I think one of the reasons I love this one is it's so aligned with my personality and my life. This reluctant hero story theme, that was the basis of my first two really big six-figure launches back when I was publishing about the stock market. One of them was when I published a home study course for stock market traders. And the deal is I had been publishing a stock market advisory letter for years. So that was my business, was publishing a newsletter. The thing is our clients kept asking for us to basically, we were putting out this letter saying, okay, this is what's going to happen in the market. And our stuff was really, really accurate. We published an amazing newsletter, but people wanted to know how to do it. So what I did is I started writing a book, and that book literally took me years to write. It was at least 3 years. It was just ridiculous how long it took me to finish that thing. I would never do it that way again. I learned a lot in the process, but it just took me forever to complete. The writing, the research was hard. I really didn't want to do it. I just wanted to be publishing a newsletter. And, because at the end of the day, I'm a lifestyle-focused person. I love having a business. I love what the business does for me and my lifestyle, but I am very much about lifestyle. So when it was finally done, or almost done, that was when I told, it was time to do the launch. The reluctant hero story was just a natural. Basically what I said was something along the lines of, hey, you know, in fact, I'm just going to tell you this story as if you were one of my prospects there. So what I essentially said was, so I just got this email the other day, and it was from one of our longtime readers. And he's been following our market letter for literally a couple of years now. And the thing he said is, boy, Jeff, I love your updates. You're uncanny how accurate you are. Your support and resistance levels are amazing. The market's always turning right where you say it's going to turn. Can you teach me to do that? And you know, this is not the first time we've gotten this request. In fact, we've almost since the time when we started publishing, we've had people that keep on writing in. It's like, Jeff, I love your stuff. I want to keep on following it, but I want to know how you do what you do. Who knows? Maybe one day, you know, you're going to decide to retire. I depend on these numbers, and I really want to know how you do it. How can you be so accurate? And so, like I said, we've been getting these requests forever. And in fact, people say, can you just put together a training program? Can you write a book on this? Can you put together a video course that shows me how to do it? And, you know, in fact, I literally have a folder in my email where I just put all those requests, and there's hundreds of requests, people asking for this. And I would love to do it, and it's something I've always thought about doing. But the thing is, you know, we're really busy just putting out this newsletter, and I'm a lifestyle-focused person. As you know, I live in Colorado. I love spending time with my family. I love spending time outdoors. And how do I carve out the time to do this? But then finally, I got that, you know, that 100th email, that heartfelt email from one of our clients that's been with us forever, and I decided, okay, I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to knock this out. A couple of weeks, I'm just going to write up a trading manual, and we'll put it out there, and you'll be all set. And so I actually started to do it. Unfortunately, it became a much bigger project than I thought. In fact, those 2 weeks ended up being 2 months, and then it extended even further. And frankly, if I wasn't so far into it, I just would have just given up. But the thing is I was so close to being done, or at least I thought I was so close to being done. So what I did was I just cranked through the thing, and now we're at the point where I've actually almost done with this. And yeah, looking back on it, I can't believe how much effort it's been, how long it's taken me to do, but I've almost got this project done. You know, and of course, after I wrote the book, that wasn't enough. Then I'm like, okay, we need some videos to go along with it. So I recorded some videos. And then I needed to round it out with the mental part, the mindset. So I did some interviews with top traders on mindset. And now we're almost done. In fact, I'm almost about to send it off to my editor. And I just have one question for you. And that is, after all this work, after I've just put in, you know, literally hundreds of hours into this thing, I just need to know that we covered everything, that we've just nailed it completely down. And so this is where it comes to you, and I would really love if you could just hit your reply button now and tell me what are the 2 most important things I need to cover in this trading course. If you can do that for me right now, I would really appreciate it, because like I said, I never would have done this thing in the first place if I realized how much effort I had to put into it. But now that we're near the finish line, I just want to make it perfect. Okay, so that's a little bit of the reluctant hero. And I slipped in a little of the pre-launch type of thing right at the end, where I actually asked for feedback. So that's just an example, and you could use this throughout your launch. The Reluctant Guru theme works really well anytime there's some level of market demand for a product before you actually create it. I used the Reluctant Hero again when I rolled out my first version of Product Launch Formula, that version 1.0 back in 2005. At that point, I had taught the basics of Product Launch Formula to a number of the top online business gurus, online marketing gurus, internet marketing gurus of the day, specifically John Reese and Frank Kern and Yannick Silver. I had helped them out before I ever started published Product Launch Formula or anything like that. The word actually started to get out behind, that I helped these guys out behind the scenes. And then John Reese, he did the first launch. It was $1 million launch, $1 million, he did it in a single day. And then the next day, he put out a report that publicly thanked me for teaching him my launch techniques. So the day he put out that report, people just started calling me and asking for help. I didn't have a didn't have a marketing presence. I wasn't teaching about marketing. I was still teaching about the stock market. I didn't even have a phone number on my websites. But somehow people were tracking down my phone number, and all of a sudden the phone's ringing off the hook. And at that point, my life was very simple. I was just publishing my stock market letter. I didn't even have to talk to people. It was just, I didn't have a customer service staff. I didn't have any staff whatsoever. It was just me, just one person, and just this really simple business. And I wasn't ready to start talking to people. I wasn't ready to start consulting or coaching people. And that was the truth of it. But it also set up a very, very nice reluctant hero kind of story. Because a year later, when I ended up creating Product Launch Formula, I started teaching Product Launch Formula. It was just natural that I tell this reluctant hero story. It was like I helped out some of the big gurus, the word snuck out, people started writing in and asking me, my phone was ringing off the hook, and I finally, the only way I could stop that phone from ringing off the hook was if I actually put this course together and started teaching it. So there's that reluctant hero. I didn't want to do this, but I was dragged kicking and screaming. And when you do this, the hero part isn't like you're some great big hero, like that you're beating your chest that you're the big hero. The hero part is that you have the answer, you have the solution, you have something that could transform your viewer's life. It's like you're the new sheriff in town and you're coming in to get rid of all the bad guys. What it is you're the new sheriff and you've got this great solution that's going to help their lives. You don't really want to have to go through all the effort of putting this solution out and supporting it, but people really want this from you. They really need this help. They really need that transformation in their life. They need that change. They need that solution. And you putting in the effort to create that solution is the part that makes you the hero. So you're reluctant because you didn't want to have to do the work. You didn't want to put yourself in the limelight, but you're doing it just almost as a service to people. That's the essence of the reluctant guru story, or the reluctant hero story. It's very, very powerful. It's basically my go-to story, and the reason is it really fits my life. The reality is that I really am constantly torn between building my business and my impact further and just kicking back and spending more time with my family and more time in the mountains near my home. So reluctant hero, big fan of that one. It's worked really, really well for me, and I've seen it work for a lot of other people when they put Product Launch Formula to use in their business. Now the next theme is loss and redemption. And the reason I've got these stars up here, these are my favorites. So this is my extra double starred favorite. So loss and redemption, this is a really powerful story. It's where maybe you had something great and then for some reason you lost it. And it's even better if someone took it away from you and then you turned around, came back with it even bigger, better, and more powerful. There are a lot of Hollywood movies with this theme. A lot of times when you see this in business, especially maybe someone's teaching business, it's like they had a business and then they lost the business, they went bankrupt, something went wrong in the business, and then they came back and started again. Or maybe you were an athlete and you got injured and then you came back and after your injury. Or maybe you were a guitar player and then you hurt your hand and you had to recover, and in that recovery you learned things about teaching guitar and you were able to teach yourself and then you were able to teach other people. Now with loss and redemption, it turns you into a very sympathetic character. And people are going to root for you because you had something and you lost it. And especially if you lost it in some unjust or unfair fashion, they're going to root for you to get that back. Loss redemption is very, very powerful. It's often a little harder to tie into a product launch than that reluctant hero. But often it's a smaller part of the launch. In other words, it's just a part of the bigger story that you'll work in that loss and redemption. But if you have a chance to use this in your launch, then it is an absolutely great theme. Now, closely related to loss and redemption is the underdog story. People love to root for an underground. No, we're gonna redo that and call that not underground. Although the whole idea of something being underground is pretty attractive too. It's the underdog. Okay, so people love to root for underdogs. I mean, that's really what's behind that loss redemption. And this is usually not something that you're going to base an entire launch around. But often, if you can turn yourself into the underdog, if you're fighting, if you're fighting something in your industry, maybe like an industry association that's trying to hold people down, or maybe it's the IRS, or it's some type of a common enemy. That common enemy is an amazing thing. I mean, people go to war and they kill each other over a common enemy. This actually ties into revenge. That's something we're going to get to down further, but you can't do any better in your marketing than have someone rooting for you. And if you can turn yourself into the underdog, it's really powerful. Next, we have discovery. And oh, look at that. I've got an extra G, where it's not an under G dog, it's an underdog. There we go. So the next one is discovery. And this is one we use, that one and the next one. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and write that in. That's curation. These next two are ones that fit really well with product launches. Discovery is basically, this is your origin story. And I shared actually earlier with you a little bit in the last video, a little bit of my origin story about how I learned about the information marketing. And so the origin story is really powerful. People want to know how you got to where you are, how you came to launch, how you came to create whatever product you created, how you're coming to launch that product. So actually, I just told you a little bit of my origin story of PLF and how I came to do that. I told it within the context of the Reluctant Hero. If I was telling that further, and I was really going into discovery, I would talk about how I learned to do these launches. And I have a whole story about that. How did I do these? I didn't learn them from anyone. I had to make it up. The reason I made up these launches is because I didn't know anything about sales or selling or marketing. So I just invented a new way to do it. I was scared to ask for the order because I was scared to sell. And so when I first started out, instead of like asking people to give me money, asking for the sale, I just kept on giving them cool stuff and more cool stuff and more cool stuff so they would love me. And then I finally worked up the nerve to sell to them. Well, turns out that ended up being like product launch formula. That ended up being pre-launch content and delivering great stuff ahead of time. So that's sort of like I just gave you like the 10-second version of my discovery story. But this discovery, it's an origin story, and it's really works really, really well. So then there's also the curation model. So the curation model, or the curation theme, is it's another origin story. We had the mad scientists and just coming up with something, discovering it. With the curation, this is where you went off and you studied all the great teachers and thought leaders and gurus. Maybe you've read all the books, went through all the trainings in your market or your niche. A perfect example of this is Napoleon Hill with his book Think and Grow Rich and everything that followed after that. In this case, he interviewed the 50 most successful men in the world. And there's a whole story behind how he got to do that, but he interviewed all these really successful people. So and you'll see these two themes play out over and over, both the discovery and curation. They're both versions of an origin story. Usually your entire launch won't be based on either the discovery or the curation, but often that starts off your pre-launch. That's the beginning. That's the part of your story. Okay, next up we have, and I'm sure you're seeing how you can mix and match these. I already just showed you how my origin story and Reluctant Guru, how they can, or Reluctant Hero can be, we're basically tied together. You're using I would use the discovery story within the Reluctant Hero story. Okay, so next is revenge. And this really isn't something that I use very much. I don't really like it because I don't think revenge, if you're seeking revenge, it does not make you terribly attractive. The bottom line in our types of business, really any kind of business, is that we want to be naturally attractive. We want to attract people to us. We want to attract prospects to us, and we want to attract clients to us. And just revenge, is just not a very, I mean, if you look at someone there going after revenge, it's not a very attractive way to be. And it's easy to be very unattractive when you're using revenge as a plot line. Now, revenge is an extremely powerful emotion, and so it does make for a powerful story, but you have to be careful. It's usually used in marketing where there is that common enemy, and the common enemy could be an association or organization or government agency or big nasty competitors really trying to shut you out or keep you down, keep you out of the market. And what you want to do if you're going to use one of these revenge plot lines is you need to make sure that your revenge basically aligns with your prospects and their self-interest. So if your prospect wants something really badly, you have to make sure that the revenge that you're going after also gets them that thing that they want. And at the end of your revenge story, you really want to grow. You want it to grow beyond revenge. You want to that you're seeing a bigger picture, and you want to move towards service. Away from just hurting someone or getting back at someone or something. Towards maybe that's your initial impetus, but then as you go forward, then now you've grown and you really just want to serve people. Otherwise, the revenge is a real problem. So, there's this big bad, something like, big bad organization. Maybe it's an industry organization and they're doing some nasty things that keep people back. If your revenge against them can help them can help your prospects get rid of all those bad things, and then you align yourself with those prospects, then it's good. But it's even better if you want to make sure that it's not just about that revenge. It's more about the good that you're going to do for that market. So, I mean, frankly, that's why I like the underdog better. I mean, the underdog and the revenge, they can be very similar. Those themes are really closely related. So I would tend to go more for that underdog one than for the revenge one. So another theme, the final one here, is ascension. This is our last one. And with ascension, this is a really powerful theme. This is basically the rags to riches story. We're fascinated by people who rise from humble beginnings and then rise to prominence. And we never get sick of that story, and it just really fascinates you. If you're going to use ascension, it tends to be a very personal story, and it's going to be about you. Some people they're less comfortable sharing their personal story, and if that's you, then you're going to have to watch out with the ascension story. I mean, if you use the ascension story, you really are sharing a story about yourself. My story is very much an ascension story. I've used it over and over, and I use it in combination with that reluctant hero. The thing is it is rags to riches for me. I started out with nothing, and I've built this amazing business. Now, I didn't use the ascension story when I was publishing about the stock market because I didn't have an ascension story. But when I started publishing Product Launch Formula, then what I'm publishing about is building an online business. And I've started from nothing and built a great online business. Now, if you're going to use the ascension story, it's best if there's some type of motivation, something that drives you to want to make that change, something that drives you to really make that ascension, to really pick yourself up and say, I got to make a change. I got to start down that road that takes me from rags to riches. The initial catalyst for me was, earlier I told you I was at home taking care of a couple kids. We had $400 per year disposable income. I was a stay-at-home dad, and my wife really wanted to come home. She was miserable. I had to find a way to change my family's life. And that's how I started out, and that was the big catalyst for me. So it wasn't just I wanted to get rich. I had this whole helping my family out. That really helps out this ascension story. Now, often your character or hero will have some major change in motivation over time in this ascension story. For me, initially, it was to support my family, and then it was eventually to help entrepreneurs and even change the world through helping entrepreneurs. So there you have it. These are the 7 main themes we've used over and over again in Product Launch Formula. Again, you don't usually follow one all the way through and hammer it through for every single video or every single piece of pre-launch. But all those pieces, you can drop them here and there. And often you will have one overarching theme, like that reluctant hero or this ascension story, or even the discovery or the curation. Very, very powerful stuff. And the more you can work these kind of themes into your launch, the better you're going to be.